All right, let's go. I'm going to be straight with you today about something a lot of people don't want to face. Your husband hid $50,000 from you, and now everything your savings, your credit, your plans, your trust is in question. And here's what nobody's telling you: the debt isn't even the biggest problem. The lie is, the pattern is, the fact that he looked at you as someone who couldn't handle the truth. That's what we need to talk about. So here's what I need you to understand from the jump. Feeling betrayed is the right response. But what you do with that betrayal is entirely up to you. And today we're going to figure out exactly what that looks like. Let me tell you what this is really about. When your husband hid $50,000 from you, he didn't just hide a number. He hid a lifestyle. He hid choices. He hid a whole version of himself that he decided you didn't get to know about. And before you spend the next 6 months trying to figure out why he did it, let me save you some time. He did it because he could. Because somewhere along the way, he decided that keeping you in the dark was easier than being honest. How's that working for you? Not great, I'm guessing. Because right now you're sitting with the bill literally and emotionally for choices you didn't even know were being made. That's a heavy thing to carry, and you're carrying it alone, even though none of it was yours to begin with. Here's what I'm seeing in homes across this country. A woman finds out her husband has been hiding debt. Could be credit cards, could be personal loans, could be gambling, could be he's been lending money to his buddies and lying to you about it. The form it takes doesn't matter as much as the fact that it happened. And the first thing she does almost every single time is she starts asking the wrong question. She asks, "Why did he do this to me?" That's the wrong question. The right question is, what does this tell me about who I'm actually married to? Those are two very different questions, and only one of them leads somewhere useful. Why did he do this? Keeps you in the victim seat. What does this tell me? Puts you in the driver's seat. And right now, the driver's seat is exactly where you need to be. So here's the thing. A 7-year-old woman, I know we'll call her Diane, found out her husband had been hiding debt for 11 years. 11 years. He had a credit card she didn't know existed, a personal loan from his brother, and a line of credit on their home equity that he'd maxed out. By the time she found out, they were $68,000 in the hole. And you know what he said when she confronted him? He said, "I was trying to protect you. Let me be clear about this. That's not protection, that's control. That's a man who decided his comfort was more important than your reality." Protecting someone means telling them the truth and facing it together. What he did was the exact opposite of protection. He protected himself. He protected his image. He protected his ability to keep doing what he was doing without any accountability. You weren't being protected, you were being managed. And there's a world of difference between those two things. Here's what you're not seeing when you're in the middle of this shock. You're not seeing the timeline. You're not asking how long this has been going on, and you need to, because $50,000 doesn't happen overnight. That's months, probably years. Which means while you were sitting across from this man at dinner, while you were making plans for your retirement together, while you were lying next to him every night thinking you knew your life he knew, he looked you in the eye and he chose the lie every single day. That's not a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is overdrafting the checking account once. This is a sustained, deliberate, ongoing deception that he maintained while sleeping next to you. The sooner you're honest with yourself about that, the sooner you can figure out what to do next. Don't minimize it. Don't explain it away. Call it what it is. Now, listen, I'm not here to tell you your marriage is over. I don't know your marriage. What I do know is that you cannot fix something you haven't fully faced. You can't change what you don't acknowledge, and right now, the thing you need to acknowledge is the full size of what happened. Not just the dollar amount, the behavior, the choice, the pattern. Because here's what I've seen over and over again in these situations. When a person hides financial information from their spouse, it's rarely the only thing they've been less than straight about. It lives alongside other things, small secrets, half-truths, convenient omissions, expenses that never quite added up, evenings that were hard to account for. I'm not saying it's always connected to bigger things, but I am saying that when you pull on this thread, sometimes a whole lot more comes with it. Go in with your eyes open. Don't be in a hurry to close them again. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Take a 5-year-old woman named Carol. She'd been married 28 years. Her husband had always handled the finances. She trusted him completely. They had an agreement. He made good money. She trusted him to manage it. Then she went to refinance their house and found out their credit score had tanked, dropped nearly 90 points. Turns out he'd been using credit cards to fund a side business that failed 2 years ago and never told her. $43,000 in debt. Gone. She found out from a mortgage officer, not from her husband. And when Carol asked him why he hadn't told her, he said he was embarrassed. He was ashamed. He didn't want to let her down. And Carol, because she's a good woman who loves her husband, almost let that be enough. Almost accepted his shame as payment for the debt he'd hidden. Until her daughter pointed out that his shame didn't pay the mortgage. His embarrassment didn't protect their retirement. Feeling bad about something doesn't fix anything. And the fact that he felt bad doesn't change the fact that she found out from a loan officer instead of from him. So here's what's really happening when a man hides debt from his wife. It's not usually just about money. Money is the vehicle, but the issue is deeper than that. What he's telling you, whether he knows it or not, is that he doesn't see you as a real partner. Partners share problems. Partners face hard things together. They sit down with the ugly numbers and they make a plan. What he did is what you do when you see someone as a dependent, someone who needs to be managed, shielded, kept happy, and in the dark. He made a unilateral decision about your shared life. He decided alone how your family's finances would be handled. And he decided you didn't get a vote. He didn't trust you with the truth about your own life. Now, I know some of you are saying, but he was ashamed. Fine, shame is real. But shame is something you work through with your partner. It's not something you use as a justification for keeping them in the dark for years. Stop lying to yourself about that distinction, because it matters more than you think. Here's what kills me about these situations. By the time the wife finds out, she's usually been blamed indirectly for the whole thing. He's been telling himself some version of she'd freak out, or she's bad with money, or she wouldn't understand. He's built a whole internal narrative where you're the reason he couldn't tell you. He made you the obstacle to honesty in his own mind. And once you know about the debt, he might even say that out loud. He might say, I knew you'd react like this. Or, this is exactly why I couldn't tell you. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe him. You'll start wondering if you did something that made honesty feel impossible. Don't go there. He didn't hide $50,000 because of your reaction. He hid it because he made a series of choices that he didn't want to answer for. His choices, his accountability, the only thing you're responsible for is deciding what happens next. You want to know what's happening when he makes those excuses? He's trying to reframe the story. He wants to move from I lied to you for years to we have a communication problem. He wants to make this a shared issue, a team failure, a relationship breakdown, because that's a lot easier to live with than I deliberately deceived my wife for years and she had no idea. Watch for that shift. Watch for when the conversation starts moving from what he did to how you two communicate. Watch for when it becomes about your anger instead of his deception. That's not accountability, that's spin. And you deserve better than spin. You've earned better than spin. 20 years of marriage, or however long it's been, does not deserve spin. Here's the reality. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Read that again. If he hid $50,000 before, and there are no significant, concrete, verifiable changes in how your finances are managed going forward, there's a very real chance this happens again. Maybe not in the same form, maybe not gambling, maybe not credit cards, but the underlying behavior, the keeping of secrets, the unilateral decision-making, the choosing of his own comfort over your right to know, that doesn't just disappear because he got caught. It changes because someone does the hard, sustained work to change it. Not a conversation, not a promise. A daily behavioral commitment to being different. And right now, your job is to find out if he's genuinely willing to do that work, not just willing actually doing it. Because a lot of men are willing to say whatever they need to say in the moment the world is caving in. That's not change. That's survival instinct. Real change looks different. Let me break this down into something practical, because I know some of you are sitting there saying, okay, but what do I actually do right now? So here's where you start. Before you have any big conversation, before you decide anything about the marriage, before you even know how you feel, you need to know exactly where you stand financially. All of it. Not his version. Not what he tells you over dinner while he's trying to manage your reaction. The actual numbers. You pull every bank statement, every credit card statement, every loan document you can find. You get a copy of both your credit reports, yours and his, separately. You look at everything that has both your names on it. You find every account, every debt, every asset. You get the complete picture. Because right now, you're making decisions without full information. And you cannot afford to do that. Literally. So here's what that conversation sounds like when you ask for it. You sit down with him, calm, clear, direct, and you say, I need to see every financial account we have, joint and individual, everything. I need the statements, the balances, and the login information, all of it today. And when he says, don't you trust me? Because there's a good chance he will say that. And the irony of that question should not be lost on you. You say, that question isn't something I'm willing to answer right now. I found out about $50,000 in debt that I didn't know existed. I need full financial transparency starting today. That's not a negotiation. Clear, firm, no apology, no softening, no I hope you understand. You don't need him to understand. You need him to comply with a reasonable request to see your own financial life. Now listen, he's going to have reactions. Let me walk you through the main ones so you're not caught off guard when they show up. The first reaction is usually remorse. Deep, dramatic, genuine-looking remorse. He's going to be sorry. He's going to cry, possibly. He's going to hold your hands and say all the right things. And you're going to want to believe him because you love him and you're exhausted and you just want this nightmare to be over. Don't let that emotional moment become the resolution to the problem. Remorse is a feeling. It is not a plan. It is not transparency. It is not accountability. What you need right now isn't his tears. You need his passwords and his account numbers. So when he's sorry, you say, I hear that you're sorry. I need you to show me that by giving me full access to our finances right now, today. Don't accept emotion as a substitute for information. ever. The second reaction is defensiveness. He might tell you that you're overreacting. He might say, "I was going to tell you." He might remind you of all the good things he's done for this family, as if those things cancel out the lie. He might even get angry, which is a classic move when someone knows they're wrong and doesn't want to face it. When that happens, here's what you say and what you don't say. You don't argue. You don't match his anger. You don't let him pull you into a fight about your reaction instead of his behavior. You say, "I'm not going to argue about whether I have the right to this information. I do. When you're ready to show me the accounts, I'll be here." And then you stop talking. You stop filling the silence. You've said what needed to be said. Let it land. Hold your ground. The third reaction, and this one catches a lot of women off guard because it seems almost reasonable, is the minimization. It's not that bad. We'll pay it off. It'll be fine. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. Other couples go through this. Here's what I need you to say when you hear that. $50,000 that I didn't know existed is that bad. I get to decide how serious this is for me, not you. And right now, it's very serious. Short, direct, non-negotiable. And if he says, "I don't know why you're acting like this, it's just money," you say, "It was never just money. It was a secret. Those are different things." Make him hear the distinction. Force him to stop treating this like a budgeting problem when what it actually is a betrayal. Here's what you need to face about the long game here. Getting through this, really getting through it, isn't just about the money. The money is actually the easier part of this whole thing. You can make a plan for money. You can consolidate. You can negotiate with creditors. You can make a budget and stick to it. Money problems have practical solutions. What doesn't have a practical solution is a trust problem. And right now, you have one of the biggest trust problems a marriage can have. The only thing that repairs broken trust is time, combined with consistent, verifiable, ongoing behavior change. Not one good week. Not a conversation where he said all the right things. Actual different behavior, proven out over months and years. That means full financial transparency going forward, joint access to every account, shared visibility into every transaction, monthly financial conversations where nothing is hidden. If he's not willing to do all of that, not some of it, all of it, then you need to ask yourself what exactly he's offering you. Let me ask you something honest. How long have you been in this marriage where things felt slightly off but you couldn't quite name why? How long have you had that low-level hum of something not adding up literally, but you pushed it down because you trusted him or because the alternative felt too scary to look at? Because $50,000 doesn't hide easily. There are almost always signs. A weird response when money came up, a refusal to look at statements together, a little flash of tension when you ask about a charge on the card, things that you noticed and then told yourself you were imagining. I'm not saying you should have caught it. I'm saying that now that you know, it's worth going back and being honest about what you saw and ignored, not to punish yourself, but so you understand the full picture, because understanding the full picture is the only thing that keeps you from ending up here again 5 years from now. So here's where you are right now. You've got a decision in front of you that nobody can make for you. You can stay in this marriage and demand real, substantive, verifiable change, a complete overhaul of how finances are handled, couples counseling to address the underlying trust issues, and a clear understanding between the two of you that one more incident of financial deception ends the marriage permanently. Or you can decide that this is a deal breaker. That's a legitimate choice. It's not dramatic. It's not quitting. It's looking at a pattern of behavior and making an informed decision. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your marriage. I'm here to tell you that those are the two honest options in front of you. What you cannot do, and this is important, so write this down if you need to. What you cannot do is stay and pretend nothing significant happened. You cannot absorb this and file it away and go back to normal, because normal is what produced this situation, and you know that. Now, listen carefully on this next part. Some of you are going to stay. You're going to choose your marriage, and I respect that completely. It takes real courage to stay and demand better, just as much as it takes courage to leave. But if staying is your choice, I need you to make it from a place of clarity and not fear. Don't stay because you're scared of starting over. Don't stay because you don't know how you'd manage the finances on your own. Don't stay because you've been married 25 years and leaving feels like admitting the whole thing was a failure. If you stay, stay because you genuinely believe this man is capable of change, because he's showing you, not just telling you, showing you that he's willing to do the hard work, and because you want to build something honest and real together going forward. That's a good reason to stay. Fear is not. Make that distinction in your own mind. Be brutally honest with yourself about which one is really driving your decision. And for those of you who are already thinking about leaving, hear this clearly. Leaving is not failure. Leaving doesn't mean you didn't try hard enough or love hard enough. It means you looked at the evidence in front of you and you made a decision based on what's real, not what you wished was true. And sometimes that is the most courageous thing a person can do. If that's where you end up, your life doesn't end here. It changes. And I know change is scary, especially when you thought your life was already set. But the alternative, staying in a marriage built on financial secrets and hoping it never happens again, that's not a life. That's a waiting game. And you're worth more than a waiting game. Here's what nobody's telling you about financial infidelity, and that's exactly what this is. Call it what it is. It's infidelity. Different from a physical affair, absolutely. The specifics are different, but the core of it is the same. A person you trusted made a deliberate, sustained choice to keep a significant part of their life hidden from you. And just like with a physical affair, you're going to go through all the stages of grief, the shock and disbelief, the anger that comes in waves when you least expect it, the bargaining, maybe it's not as bad as I think, maybe there's an explanation, the depression that settles in when you realize this is real and it happened to you. And eventually, if you do the work, acceptance, not acceptance of what he did, but acceptance of the reality of your situation so you can move through it. The difference between financial infidelity and a physical affair is that the financial version has immediate, tangible, practical consequences that you cannot put on a shelf while you process your emotions. The debt is real. The collectors don't care that you're heartbroken. Your credit score doesn't pause while you grieve. So you have to be able to hold both things at once, deal with the practical emergency in front of you, and process the emotional betrayal underneath it. That's genuinely hard. But you can do it. A lot of women before you have done it. You know what I'm seeing when I look at the women who get through situations like this? The ones who come out the other side with their dignity and their future intact, they share one thing in common. They don't let the shock paralyze them. They feel everything. They're angry. They cry. Some of them throw things, and I'm not going to tell you that's wrong. They're devastated. And then they get up and they deal with it. They don't sit in the victim position for longer than they absolutely need to. Not because the victimization wasn't real, it was completely real, but because staying there doesn't pay the bills. Staying there doesn't protect your retirement. Staying there doesn't rebuild what was broken. The woman who says, this is on him, and I'm taking control of my financial future starting right now, that's the woman who comes out of this, okay? Maybe even stronger than she was before. That's the version of yourself I want you to find inside this. Let me tell you about a third woman. We'll call her Patty. 53 years old, 22-year marriage, 3 kids, Two of them grown, found out her husband had been hiding gambling debt for 7 years. 7 years, $71,000. Slot machines, online gambling, some sports betting. She found a stack of bank statements he'd been intercepting before she could see them. She was ready to walk out the door that same afternoon. And I'm not saying that would have been wrong. She had every right to. But Patty did something smart before she made any permanent decisions. She took care of herself financially first. She talked to a financial advisor on her own, not as a couple, on her own. She went to her bank and separated what she could separate. She removed herself from joint credit accounts where the bank would allow it. She got a full, clear picture of their combined assets and liabilities. She understood exactly what she was walking away from and what she was walking into before she made any choice about the marriage. By the time she sat down with her husband 3 days later to have the real conversation, she wasn't operating from panic, she was operating from information. She was calm. She was specific about what she knew. She was clear about what she needed. And he had nowhere to hide because she already had the numbers. She already knew more than he thought she did. That changed everything about that conversation. That's what I want for you. I want you to have every important conversation going forward from a position of information and not shock. So here's the practical order of operations. Step 1, before you do anything else, get every financial number you can find on your own. Bank statements, credit card statements, your credit report from all 3 bureaus. Don't wait for him to give you information. Get what you can get independently first. Step 2, get yourself financially protected as much as possible right now. Talk to your bank. Ask about your options for separating joint accounts or at least understanding what you're liable for. Step 3, do not make the final decision about your marriage in the first 30 days after you find out. You are in shock. Big decisions made in shock rarely hold. Give yourself some time to sit with the information, to breathe, to think. And step 4, when you do have the conversation with him about whether there's any path forward, have it after you've done steps 1 through 3. Here's roughly what that conversation sounds like. You sit down with him and you say, here's what I need from you if we're going to work through this. First, full access to every financial account, joint and individual, including passwords and statements, starting today. Second, we meet with a financial advisor together within the next 2 weeks to make a real plan for this debt. Third, we start couples counseling within the next month. These aren't suggestions. These aren't requests. These are the minimum of what I need in order to consider staying in this marriage. And then you stop talking. You let him respond. And you listen not to what he says, but to whether his response is a yes or some version of not quite a yes dressed up in nice words. If he agrees to everything, watch what he does. Not this week, not this month, over time. Because here's the thing, anyone can say yes in a moment of crisis. The question is whether the behavior follows. Does he give you full account access, or does he give you partial access and say that's enough? Does he actually make the appointment with the financial advisor, or does he keep saying he'll get to it? Does he show up to counseling ready to do the work, or does he sit in the session trying to make it about your reaction instead of his behavior? Watch every single one of those things, because this is a pattern and you know it, and patterns don't end with promises. Patterns end with sustained behavioral change over a long period of time. Anything less than that is just the same story with a different starting point. Let me talk about the kids for a minute, because I know a lot of you are holding back, staying quiet, softening your response because you're thinking about your children. You don't want to blow up their world. You don't want them to see their parents fighting. You don't want them to know the family is in financial trouble. I understand that impulse completely. But here's what you need to understand. Your kids already know something is wrong. Kids always know. They don't know the details, but they can feel the tension. They can feel the shift in the house. They can hear the conversations that stop when they walk into the room. You're not protecting them by pretending everything is fine. You're just making them anxious without any explanation. And on top of that, you're modeling something for them. You're showing them what it looks like when a person discovers a major betrayal. What you do next, how you handle this, whether you demand accountability or absorb it in silence, that's what your kids are watching. That's what they're going to remember, not the debt. What you did about it. Make sure what they see is a person who had the self-respect to demand better. Here's something else nobody talks about when this happens. The shame. Not his shame, yours. A lot of women in this situation feel embarrassed. They feel stupid. How did they not know? How could they have missed this? What does this say about them? I need you to hear me very clearly on this. You are not stupid. You are not naive. You are a person who trusted their spouse. That's not a character flaw. That's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. The shame belongs entirely to him. He is the one who created a situation that now has you questioning yourself. Don't carry his shame. It doesn't belong to you. You did not fail by trusting your husband. He failed by breaking that trust. Those are not the same thing, and you need to be very clear about that distinction in your own mind before you move forward. And here's the piece about your friends and your family, because they're going to have opinions. Oh, they're going to have a lot of opinions. Your mother might say, I always knew he wasn't right for you. Your best friend might say, leave him immediately. You don't deserve this. His family might say, he's a good man. He made a mistake. Don't throw away the marriage. Everybody's going to have a position. And here's what I need you to do with all of that. Listen to what they say. Take in the information and the perspective, and then close the door and make your own decision. This is your marriage, your life, your children. No one else gets to decide the terms of how you handle this. The people who love you will offer opinions out of genuine care, but they don't live inside your life. They don't know everything you know. They don't have to live with the consequences of the choice. You do. So ultimately, after you've heard everyone out, this decision is yours. And one more thing I need to address before we close this out, because I see this happen and it derails everything. There will come a moment, probably pretty soon, where he starts to be nice to you. Really nice. Flowers maybe, dinner, extra attentive, helpful around the house. Suddenly he's the man you always wanted him to be, right? When you're trying to figure out whether to stay or go. And part of you is going to say, see, he's changing. This is who he really is. Let me be honest with you about that moment. That behavior, the sudden niceness, the extra effort, the charm offensive, that's not change. That's a response to threat. People act differently when they're scared of losing something. A person who was capable of hiding $50,000 from you for years is absolutely capable of being charming for a few weeks when they're afraid of the consequences. Don't confuse a man performing for survival with a man who has genuinely examined himself and decided to be different. Change is not about being sweet when things are at their worst. Change is about behavior over time when things are ordinary and comfortable and no one is watching. When you're 6 months out from this, when the crisis has faded, when he doesn't feel the threat anymore, what does he do then? That's the question. You don't know the answer to that yet. So don't let the charm of the moment answer it for you. Keep your eyes open, keep the standards in place, and let time tell you the truth. Whatever happens with this marriage, I need you to hear what I'm about to say. Your financial future belongs to you. Not to him, not to your marriage, to you. A lot of women in long marriages hand the finances to their husbands, and I understand why. Maybe he was good with numbers. Maybe it seemed practical. Maybe you had other things to manage, and this was the division that made sense. But that division just resulted in a $50,000 secret that blew up your family. And going forward, whether you stay or you go, you need to be financially literate. You need to understand a bank statement. You need to know how credit works. You need to know what your monthly expenses are, what your assets are worth, and what you would need to live independently. Not because you're planning to leave, but because a woman who understands her own finances is a woman who can never again be blindsided by someone else's secrets. And that woman, that informed, clear-eyed, financially literate woman, is who you need to become out of this situation. Not broken, not bitter, ready. Get the education you should have had all along. Work with a financial advisor who works for you, not you as a couple, just you, your needs, your future. Understand your credit report. Take a class if you need to. Read the books you never read because he was handling it. Build your own financial knowledge from the ground up if you have to, because the one thing this situation is going to give you, if you let it, is the chance to never be in this position again. Never sitting in shock because someone else controlled information you had every right to have. Never finding out from a mortgage company or a collections agency that your own financial life was not what you thought it was. That version of your life ends here. Starting today, here's the bottom line. He chose secrets over your family. That's not a mistake. That's a decision he made over and over again every day for months or years. And now you're at a crossroads. You can accept his apology and go back to business as usual and watch this happen again. Or you can demand something different. Real transparency. Real accountability, a financial plan you're both part of, couples counseling, whatever it takes. But here's what you cannot do. You cannot pretend this didn't happen and expect anything to change. When's it going to be enough? That's the